The silence arrived before Emily Carter understood what it meant. It followed her into the cafe like a shadow she could not shake off. The place smelled of coffee and warm bread, familiar and safe, yet her chest tightened the moment she stepped. Inside, she had promised herself she would not come here again. Some places carried memories that did not fade. This was one of them. She stood near the door, brushing rain from her coat, telling herself she would order quickly and leave. That was when she saw him. Daniel Brooks sat by the window, his back straight, his hands resting around a coffee cup. He had not touched. He looked out at the street, not really seeing it. The years had changed him in small ways. His hair was slightly thinner, his face more serious. But his presence hit her all at once, sharp and sudden, like a truth she had buried too fast. Emily's breath caught. For a moment, the past and present collided. She remembered laughter, long talks, quiet evenings filled with unspoken hopes. She remembered waiting. She remembered leaving. She could have turned away. She could have walked out and let fate pass her by. Instead, she stayed still, as if her feet had chosen for her. Daniel turned his head, almost sensing her. Their eyes met. The world narrowed to that single moment. "Emily," he said, his voice calm but careful, as if her name held weight. "Daniel." She replied, surprised at how steady she sounded. They smiled politely at first, like strangers who shared a history too large to unpack in public. He gestured to the chair across from him. She hesitated, then sat. They spoke about simple things: work, the weather, the city. Each word felt measured, placed with care. Emily noticed how Daniel listened closely, the way he always had. She noticed how he avoided certain topics. It's the same way he used to avoid commitment 3 years ago. She had left Toronto with a single suitcase and a heart full of unanswered questions. Daniel had not stopped her. He had not asked her to stay. That silence had been louder than any goodbye. Daniel had been married once, long before Emily entered his life. The marriage had ended without drama, but it had left marks. He became cautious, slow to trust his own feelings. Emily had tried to understand. She told herself love meant patience. Over time, patience turned into doubt. She had wanted a future. Daniel had wanted time. Now time had brought them back to the same table. "I didn't expect to see you," Daniel said. "I didn't expect to be here," Emily answered honestly. They shared a small laugh, but it faded quickly. There was much beneath the surface. Daniel spoke about his job, how it kept him busy but empty. Emily talked about Seattle, about starting over, about learning how to be alone without feeling lonely. Neither mentioned the nights they had once spent talking until morning. Neither mentioned the plans that never happened. Daniel studied her face. "You seem different," he said. "So do you," she replied. Different did not mean distant. Anything, the space between them felt thinner now, filled with things they had never said. Emily finished her drink and stood, ready to escape before the past pulled her under. Daniel stood too. "Do you have time for a walk?" he asked. "Just a short one." She almost said no, almost. Instead, she nodded. They stepped outside, the air cool and fresh. The city moved around them, unaware of the quiet storm unfolding between two people who once meant everything to each other. They walked side by side, not touching, but close enough to feel each other's presence. Emily felt the familiar pull, the comfort and the ache mixed together. She reminded herself that comfort did not always mean safety. Daniel spoke first. "I thought about you after you left." Emily looked ahead. "I thought about you too." They walked past old buildings and busy streets, memories rising with each step. Emily remembered how she used to imagine this moment ending differently. She once believed Daniel would choose her. That belief had carried her through months of waiting. "I wasn't ready back then," Daniel said quietly. "Stopping near the river, I was afraid of making another mistake." Emily turned to him. "And I was afraid of disappearing from your life without ever really being part of it." The truth settled between them, heavy but honest. There was no anger in her voice, only clarity. Daniel nodded. I know I hurt you. Yes, she said. But I also know you never meant to. They stood there, the water moving steadily beside them. Life continued, even when people paused as Emily thought about the life she had built since leaving. It was not perfect, but it was hers. She had learned to choose herself. Seeing Daniel again tested that strength. I don't want to go backward, she said softly. I don't want you to, Daniel replied. I just needed you to know that what we had mattered to me. Emily met his eyes. She saw regret, but also growth. For the first time, she did not feel like she was waiting. They parted, without promises. No dramatic words, no lingering touch. Just understanding. As Emily walked away, she felt something unexpected. Not sadness, not hope, but awareness. He wasn't her husband. He never had been. Yet fate had crossed their paths again, not to reopen old wounds, but to ask a question neither of them could ignore. And that question lingered long after they went their separate ways. Waiting for an answer neither was ready to give. The night after their walk stayed with Emily Carter. Sleep came late and left early. The city outside her apartment felt louder than usual, as if reminding her that life did not pause for unfinished stories. She made and told herself that seeing Daniel Brooks again did not change who she had become. Still, his voice echoed in her mind, calm and careful, full of things he once kept hidden. The next day moved fast. Meetings, calls, deadlines. Emily focused on work, letting routine carry her forward. By evening, she felt steady again. She cooked dinner, cleaned the kitchen, and sat with a book she did not read. Her phone rested on the table. When it lit up, her heart reacted before her mind did. It was Daniel. He asked if she was okay. She waited a moment before answering. She did not want to fall into old patterns. She typed a simple reply. She was fine. He said he was glad. The conversation could have ended there. It didn't. They exchanged messages that felt careful but real. Nothing heavy. Nothing dramatic. Just two people testing the ground beneath their feet. Days passed and the messages became part of Emily's routine. She noticed that Daniel no longer spoke in half words. He said what he meant. When he didn't know something, chose a park near the water, open and quiet. The sky was clear, the kind that made everything feel possible and dangerous at the same time. They walked, talked, and laughed in short bursts. Emily felt lighter, but she stayed alert. She had learned the cost of ignoring her own needs. Daniel told her about the years after she left. He spoke of rebuilding himself, of learning how to be alone without running from it. He admitted his fears without hiding behind them. I didn't know how to love without losing myself, he said. Emily listened. She did not interrupt. She knew what it felt like to love someone who was still healing from something else. They sat on a bench, watching people pass. Life moved forward all around them. Children played, couples talked, strangers crossed paths and moved on. I don't expect anything from you, Daniel said. I just don't want to lie anymore. Emily nodded. Neither do I. That honesty. Not into certainty, but into respect. Over the next weeks, they met often. Coffee turned into walks. Walks turned into shared meals. There were no labels, no promises. Just presence. Emily noticed how Daniel showed up when he said he would. She noticed how he listened without trying to fix everything. Still, doubt lingered. Emily knew that feeling connected did not mean feeling safe. She needed to know that this time she would not disappear inside someone else's uncertainty. One evening, they stood on her balcony, the city lights stretching out before them. The air was cool. Daniel looked thoughtful. I'm not asking you to wait, he said. I'm asking you to see me as I am now. Emily took a breath. I need to know that choosing me won't feel like a risk you regret later. Daniel turned. But not choosing you was the one I regret the most. The words landed softly, without force. Emily did not rush to answer. She had learned that clarity came from stillness, not pressure. Time passed. Emily continued her life. Daniel remained part of it, but not its center. That balance mattered. She watched how he handled challenges, how he stayed present even when things were uncomfortable. She saw effort, not promises. Then came the moment that tested everything. Daniel received an offer to move, a promotion. It's a chance he had worked toward for years. It would take him across the country. He told Emily the same day, his voice steady, but uncertain. "I didn't want you to hear it later," said. Emily felt the old fear rise. Distance, timing, choices. They met that night, walking along the river where everything had started again. The water moved calmly, unaware of the weight of human decisions. "This is important," Emily said. "For you, I know," Daniel replied, "but so are you." She looked at him. "I won't ask you to stay. Won't ask you to follow," he said. They stood in silence. This time, the silence did not feel empty. It felt honest. "What do you want?" Emily asked. Daniel answered without hesitation. "I want to build something real. With you, even if it takes work." Emily closed her eyes for a moment. She thought of the woman she used to be, waiting for someone else to decide her future. She opened her eyes, steady. "Then let's choose each other," she said. "Not out of fear, not out of habit, but because we both want to." They did. Not make big promises. They made a plan. Visits, time, communication, space to grow without drifting apart. The months that followed were not perfect. There were missed calls, tired days, moments of doubt. But there was also trust. When fear appeared, they named it. When distance felt heavy, they faced it together. Emily learned that love did not have to feel like waiting. Daniel learned that. Commitment did not mean losing himself. When he returned months later, it felt different. Not like picking up where they left off, but like starting something new. They stood in the same cafe where fate had crossed their paths again. This time, there was no hesitation. Daniel reached for her hand, not as a question, but as a choice. Emily smiled, feeling grounded and clear. He wasn't her husband. Not yet. But fate had rewritten their story, not as a mistake, not as a regret, but as a reminder that timing matters, growth matters, and love, when chosen fully, finds its way back stronger, wiser, and ready to stay.